Hello everyone, my name is Tabitha Hughes, and this week's discussion board topic had us searching the database JSTOR for articles related to our possible dissertation topic. So as you know from last week, my dissertation topic is focused around marginalized groups in relationship to the Christian Church. Last week I dealt with LGBTQ and that community, and this week I'm going to talk about women. We know traditionally women have been marginalized within the ministry, within the church itself. And so I'm exploring that to see how it relates in terms of witchcraft. We know that traditionally when we think about witchcraft, it is synonymous with women. So let me jump right in. This week I found 3 articles concerning women and witchcraft. The first one is called Witchcraft, Female Aggression and Power in the Early Modern Community. It was found in the Journal of Social History, and it basically discusses possible causes from a sociological and anthropological lens of why women were accused as witches. And a lot of it has to do with the disruption of patriarchal power within these communities and the threat to the patriarchal society in general. Many of the women who were deemed to be witches and accused were either single widows or spinsters who somehow threatened the disruption of the traditional patriarchal family. They were not married, they weren't having children, or the theory was that the community simply got tired of having to take care of widows and spinsters and those on the outskirts of the community. And so they became prime targets for witchcraft and witchcraft accusations. The second article is one called Anne Hutchinson, Sectarian Mysticism and the Puritan Order, and it's found in church history. And again, very similar in terms of theories and reasoning as the first article, except it's dealing with one person, Anne Hutchinson, who was a Puritan in the colony of Massachusetts Bay, encountered the wrath of John Winthrop for her quote-unquote teachings and ministering of a philosophy that was a little bit different than what the Puritan norm was. Now, Miss Hutchinson was married. She was an outstanding member of the community who was embraced well when she first arrived by Winthrop. He saw her as an asset. She was an older woman. She could help teach the younger women how to be good wives and mothers, etc. But that changed because Anne Hutchinson began to teach that God had given her a vision, and that it was really faith in the relationship with Him and His salvation over works that got you into heaven. And this was a little different than the normal doctrine that was preached by the Puritans. And so basically threatened the patriarchy, and then the overall society in Massachusetts Bay. So again, she was arrested, put on trial. There were rumors of her being a witch, and so forth. She was eventually exiled from the colony. So again, we're seeing these gender roles, women traditionally being accused as witches if there was any reason to, for example, that they could be a threat to the norm, the patriarchy, the expectation. The last article I found was very interesting. It was the one a little bit different than I've explored before. It's called Black Magic, Witchcraft, Race, and Resistance in Colonial New England. And this one was in the Journal of Black Studies. And this one looks at how African Americans were viewed in the colonies in terms of being witches. We know that many of the Africans came either straight from Africa or were imported from Barbados and the Caribbean. So of course they brought with them their religion that had been native to them. White Europeans typically equated the color black with sin and evil. And so of course it was very easy to put that label onto African Americans because of their skin color. It was interesting to denote that in the early colonies, Black people were both kind of an oxymoron. They were both powerless and yet powerful. They were powerless in their role as slaves, but they were powerful because of those religions, and they were feared. And so we know that fear is a very potent motivator. And so a lot of times, they would be charged with, if they were accused and charged with witchcraft, in which that happened, their punishment was often even one more step. For example, in New England, they didn't burn witches at the stake. That was typically a European thing. But if an African American was found guilty of witchcraft, they very often were burned at the stake. It's kind of a hidden piece of history that I'm looking forward to really delving into as I think about marginalized groups and the church. So I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and it's maybe whetted your appetite a little bit to go and find out a little more about some of these topics. Thank you and have a great day.